All right, there we go. Let's get our Facebook folks in here. We can start the show. Got our wheels spinning here. It is Monday morning. Boom and boom. All right, welcome in. It is Monday morning, the 24th. It's time for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell, joined by Erick Trickel. Erick, happy 1 month until the NFL draft as it sits. The Broncos have their 20th pick, the 51st pick, the 85th pick, the first 2 days of the draft, and a chance to go a number of directions based on who knows. Everybody's going to be available at 20. There's going to be 100 players picked before pick 20. Denver screwed. It's that time of year. The over analysis and the expounding of egos on Twitter with the draft universe. You know how it is, but we're here, we're having fun, and it's Monday morning. How are you doing? Did you have a good weekend? Hopefully a little less upper respiratory stuff than I dealt with.
Yeah, I mean, I had a good weekend. It's actually been great because last few weeks we've been over the weekend, Friday night until Sunday. The little one's been going over to my parents' house and been staying the night over there, so it gives me a nice little break from them. I get Saturday all to myself, and then Saturday I decided to just get some extra rest in and didn't get out of my pajamas or get out of bed until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Goodness.
Very lazy day for me, which was very needed with the last month of work that I've been putting in. But it was a great week, and as you said, we're a month till the draft, and it was good to get that rest in because this next month is going to be an even bigger grind as we are in those, the final legs leading up to the draft.
Yeah, round and third base. Home plate is in sight, and going to be a lot of fun. We got visits happening. I saw that the Broncos are bringing in Gunnar Helm to the facilities, so keeping an eye on him. If you guys recall, Gunnar Helm sprained his ankle on his first 40 and then ran a horrific 40. So he was somebody who a lot of people had late day two. And then after the combine, I'm like, oh my gosh, is he a fourth or fifth rounder? Probably falls out in between, very late 3 to mid round 4, but we'll see. Deep tight end class and a lot of day 2 wide receivers maybe pushes him down, but
yeah.
I don't know if I would take the 4.84 on the surface to heart. I think he's probably more of a 4.6 upper 4.6 guy, but hopefully he's healed enough and can get out there and test differently leading up to the NFL draft, because I don't think running it, and credit to him going through and still competing after that sprained ankle, but goodness, that 4.84, everybody was freaking out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. Like when it happened, nobody knew. Nobody knew until after that day was over when he tweeted out that he had a sprained ankle, and so you see it and it's like, oh, that's rough, especially when I go through and I try to gauge what these guys are going to get. If you can get their miles per hour, there's actually a formula that you can do to try to convert it to what a 40-yard dash should be. And his, I think, was like a 4.64, I think is what it was, 4.63. So high 4.6s, as you said. So when you see that, it's a big deal. And it's a big deal because when you think about it, when in terms of miles per hour, it's a big difference, especially for the NFL. And so getting that, I mean, I remember in the group chat, I was one that was like, oh man, this was terrible. And even you were like, eesh, that's not great. And then we get a sprained ankle, and it provides a little bit more insight because that is not what he looked like on tape at all. And it's one of those things where even without the injury, you probably trust what you see on tape a little bit more.
Yeah, and I know there's people talking about Helm round 2, and we were both a little bit less on that. I know he had the highest rate of inline snaps, and he was fluid after the catch. I don't know if he's necessarily explosive, and he's got work to do as an inline blocker. I mean, my inline guy from the beginning, I mean, everybody loves Hawes. He's a little bit more H-back inline hybrid there, but I love CJ Dippre out of Alabama, and he tested well and measured, 6'5", 265. If he's there round 6 with a bullet for me, that's my guy for that wide tight end mold. But gosh, we're already talking 6-round tight ends. Gotta love it. It's that time of year. Appreciate everyone coming in and all the people. If you're watching us today, make sure you click the thumbs in on the way out. It's free. It takes a second. If you think we earned it, we got our guy, Jeremy Sean, says, morning, guys, 7-round mock. Let's go. We might run a few mocks here, actually, Eric. I wanted to run maybe one where we trade up, maybe go with a slow mode, and we can talk a little bit in between it. One where we trade back from that first round pick, just to kind of talk about what it might look like, what kind of packages, how the board falls with that. Gatorade Gaming coming in here. Good morning, Nick and Eric. What's good, Broncos country? We're good. We're hanging out, waiting for you guys to wake up too. Click the thumbs up. We appreciate you, Todd. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you, Todd. We got our guy Dave Glassman in the house. Trade down, baby. That's where I'm at. Obviously, it depends on what's available when the Broncos are on the clock and what's being offered when they're there. But I know that George Payton, kind of like was it last year, like at pick 12, we should like 14 guys still available that are just as good as one overall or whatever he said. This year. Oh, with pick 20, I think we're still going to we think that the real talent of this class is in the top 20, and we're going to have 3 guys we like there. George, I love you. I don't know if that's the case with this class, but we'll see. Who knows? Maybe the quarterbacks change things. They always tend to do that. Victor Rios, good morning, guys. Good morning to you, Victor. Across the pond, Glenn says good morning, good evening, Eric and Nick. Looking forward to this mock. Countdown's only 1 month away now. Absolutely. Jason, man, share some breakfast over here. That sounds good. I'm just a freaking Kirkland brand protein bar in the morning. I read a study that having coffee on an empty stomach spikes your cortisol level, which is your fight or flight response. And I'm like, maybe I should be not fasting and having my stomach lining eat itself with the acidic coffee in the morning with no food in my stomach. So we're protein bar in the morning, not egg, sausage, and waffles. Goodness. Also calls us the GOAT. I don't know about that, but we do appreciate that. Talking about eggs and bacon there as well. And I did want to get into Jason mentions Chad Reuter's mock draft. And of note, he does have the Broncos trading up to pick, I believe it was 12 overall. That would be with the Dallas Cowboys, giving up picks 20 and 51 to go get Tyler Warren out of Penn State. Now, Tyler is obviously a really good player. I'm a little bit disappointed that his arms were as short as they were for somebody that you want as a Y tight end. If you want him on space, you want a little bit more length and reach for the ideal build. He's a tenacious blocker, but he's a little bit, home run derby with that as well. And with the lack of length, I don't know if you want him as much as a lead on any like power concepts still. But that said, I think it's just bad business to trade up that far, give up 2 starting caliber picks for a devalued tight end position as good as, we both like Tyler Warren. If he's there at 20, that's fine. That's dandy. But trading up 2 picks for a non-value position, I think is just bad practice, bad business.
And in this draft, especially, I think giving up that 51st pick to move up for that is what really hurts it. And the idea for it. And I like Warren. But as you said, home run derby as a blocker. And when you see that length, that lack of it that he has, that just is going to create more issues at the NFL level, because these guys in the NFL, dang near every single one of them knows how to use length to their advantage or a lack of length to their opponent's disadvantage. Especially when you look at some of the pass rushers that we have in the AFC West that we're going to be facing for 6 games in a year. So that kind of hurts my desire for Tyler Warren for Denver a little bit. And I think I've kind of hit the point where I know, and this is going to sound weird after, a month and a half ago of me being low on Loveland, but I think I'm in an area where I would prefer Colson Loveland to Tyler Warren for the Broncos specifically. And it's just because of, the shoulder injury with Loveland. That was a big change for me, knowing that he played with that last year, the torn labrum, right? That's what it was. And then being what he can do in space and everything, and then just the lack of length with Tyler Ward, and then the inconsistencies as a blocker. It is a lot of not just technical issues, but you can see that his lack of length was a hindrance multiple times when you turn on his college tape. And I think that's just something that's going to become an even bigger concern when you get to the NFL level with him.
Yeah, and with Loveland as well, he's much bigger than I thought. And now he's still a little bit wiry in the frame. He's really young. I think just 20 years old still. But coming in 6'6", 248. That's pretty good. I don't got any issue with that by any means. 33-inch arm length compared to Warren, who I think was more 31. But I thought Loveland was going to come, 6'5", 240, 238 with how he moves. The first 10 yards out of his stance is night and day compared to Warren. He's got a little bit more build-up speed. Now, if you can design underneath stuff, and I'd be happy with either of them at 20 still, all the same. Just because the Broncos have Ingram, I don't think that takes you out of any moves the Broncos made so far in free agency, outside of maybe the Hufanga move, because you have 2 safeties locked up, and I don't know if they really want to be a 3 safety team. But outside of that move, I think bringing in Ingram, bringing in Greenlaw, whatever they've DJ Jones, that shouldn't keep them from adding defensive tackle, linebacker, and tight end early in the draft by any means. That's just where I'm at with all of this, but we'll see. The Broncos, the rest of that mock from Chad Reuter, didn't want to get into it. With the 85th pick, he had them going with, oh my gosh, I just had it. It was an interesting pick. 85, he had them going with, oh, that's right. Princely, Umani Ellen, edge rusher, transferred from Florida to Ole Miss. Very speed rush oriented, good profile. Didn't test as well as I thought he would. Granted, that's probably why he's going from pick 40 to 50 range to 85. And then with the Broncos' 4th round pick, he has him going Cam Skattebo, who everybody knows. And I think that's about the range where I'm interested in Cam Skattebo for the Broncos. I think 85's a little early. If they took him, I'd understand. But I think there's like a huge conglomerate of running backs. I tweeted it out yesterday that after the top 6, it's like, I'll just wait because somebody I like is going to be there round 4. Or maybe you trade back up to the end of the 3rd round to go get your specific guy out of that. But he did have the Broncos bypassing some talent. I think I would have preferred a little bit further there. Guys like Dylan Sampson falls to pick 100, and that Jalen Royals, who I haven't mocked to Denver yet, but I think 3rd round, he's of interest to me. He has Alec Manor falling to the 4th round. I would love Manor that far. Jacob Parrish might be one of my favorite guys in the entire class, Eric. Like, we might have to have an Our Guys section at some point. I love Jacob Parrish, Kansas State cornerback. So we'll see. So trading up for Tyler Warren, giving up your 51st to go get a tight end, and then getting Princely, another speed rusher with some edge setting questions, and Skattebo, I think it's probably a C mock for me, all the same if the Broncos walked away with that.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you with basically everything you said. I mean, for me with running backs is there's one guy really that's round 1 for me, and I know that Hampton's getting talked about it. I'm still not a Hampton as a round 1 player. Not even a Denver, just an overall. I don't think Hampton is
round 1 grade. Round
1 grade.
Yes.
Yeah. And he's one of those guys that he's probably going to get there, but I just don't see the grade for it. Round 2, there's about 3, maybe 4 guys that I would consider. They're at 51. That is where I would consider Hampton, but again, I'm kind of taking him out of this because he's probably going to go 1st round. And heck, who knows? This time next year, we're talking about how foolish that he makes me look. But anyways, and then round 3 and round 4, there is just a group of guys, like you said, 6 to 8 running backs that I would consider in that range. So instead of taking one at round 3, I would see who's there at 122. 40 picks later, give or take. So for me, it's like running back at 51 or running back at 122, just kind of see how the board falls. And then pairing that up, either you can, combine a couple of 6-round picks to move up into the 5th to get another guy, or just use one of those 6-round picks to get another running back. That's where I'm at with the best idea for this class. So Cam Skattebo in the 4th round in this mock, I'm fine with it. The 3rd round pick is one that I'm not a fan of. I'm not a big fan of Princely Hugh in general. Edges like that, I'm not a fan of in general. Tall, lanky, doesn't have any sand in his pants, not going to, drop and hold up at the point of attack. Very much a, athletic rusher, but hasn't shown that throughout the draft process. You see it a little bit more on tape. So it might be one of those situations where you're kind of trusting the tape a little bit more. But overall, I'm with you. I'd probably go give the whole mock a C- in actuality.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. David, good to see you. Appreciate you. Hope you're doing well. So Zach Phillips in here asking about what's going on. Scott's busy running Falcons and Gators and the Tigers stuff that he needed the time in the morning. So I'm still doing Falcons stuff with Scott, but Broncos is Eric and I now, which is a lot of fun. And now I can't complain about being the up and at it early person. I still am because I do the Falcons show right before this. But Eric's getting up just the same time. We got Robert coming in. Good to see you, Robert. Hope you're doing well. David Ellis, he wants us to take Hampton and then trade up for Mason Taylor in the 2nd, and also like Skattebo in the 4th. Possible. We'll see what happens with the Broncos there. And I do want to get into it. I mean, we got time. Waiting for some super chats to roll in, still all the same. But we're going to run a couple mocks here today. And our first one is just going to be straight up with the no trades. Just let it fall as it might. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Hopefully you guys can still see everything going on there, and we're going to start the draft. So for the Broncos, I'm very much holistic. They have the needs as running back, wide receiver, center, defensive line. I mean, tight ends got to be in there. Linebackers got to be in there. Just draft good players. And who do we got available here? So the Broncos, Egbuka falls off the board. Tyler Warren at 17, Hampton at 19. That's kind of bad case scenario for the Broncos there. But that means somebody's going to fall that we like all the same. You got Genty going there at 9 overall. Tet McMillan to the Raiders at 6. Shamar Stewart went 5th. Man, the ghost of whoever was the GM for the Jags that was fired that we made fun of.
Trent Baalke.
Trent Baalke. It goes to Trent Baalke, still in the halls there, out in Jacksonville, taking Shamar Stewart at 5 overall. But we're on the clock here. Guys available. We got Malachi Starks, Mike Green, Luther Burden, Ezaraku, Grant, Walter Nolan, Colston Loveland, Jalen Walker, Derek Harmon, Gray Zabel. I think he kind of got a cutoff there at that point. Yeah, that's probably maybe Nick Manawari. I know that he's been up there as well. I mean, as the board falls for me on this one, this screams trade back. With that said, this is not going to be our trade back one. We can't get it. So who would I be looking at here? I'll just toss out some names just as the board falls for me here, Eric. I think any of the defensive linemen make sense for Denver here. Grant, Nolan, or Harmon. I think that Jalen Walker is a really interesting player for the Broncos in this range. Luther Burden also, it sounds like he's going to fall, but he's fun. And also Colston Loveland. So I'd be happy. I'd understand any of those ones direction for the Broncos. Who would you take here?
Personally, I would go Kenneth Grant, but what I think Denver would actually do is Colston Loveland. Kenneth Grant, I mean, his versatility on the defensive line. I know that he didn't have, tested the pro day, but he's been dealing with a tight hamstring. It's why he pulled out of the Shrine Bowl. They thought that he'd be recovered by the combine, but he suffered a setback in training, and so he wasn't able to work out at the combine. He was advised not to work out at his pro day, did it anyways, and didn't test out as well. But I mean, he had a 5'11", 40 time at 330 plus pounds. Still isn't a bad time. No. For somebody that size. He was just, talked up as being a little bit more, but when you factor in, hamstring injury, being unable to really, do the preparations and the training for the testing that they do, kind of explains it a little bit. And then Colston Loveland, you've talked about it. Evan Ingram, he doesn't prevent them from going tight end here. 2-year deal, older, injuries. And I think with Colston Loveland is he can come in. You have ways for him to contribute right away as a rookie. So Colston Loveland is where I think Denver would go. And I think that's, if we're trying to be realistic, that's where we should go with this one.
The guy who will fall in here that is perennially mocked way higher is Jalen Walker. And he's somebody who he's a hard fit because there's not a lot of coverage reps at linebacker. But man, his closing speed is probably some of the best in this class. Broncos have Drew Sanders in that role, but from what we've heard, I guess I would question their love for him as a linebacker with some questions about, hitting the books. So we'll see what happens with him. But is there any thought for a Jalen Walker here just to add a different body type versatility up front?
Jalen Walker is tough because you can see the talent on tape. You can see what this player can be. But I know from speaking with different people that there is a big question about what they want to do with Walker at the NFL level. And they were hoping to get some answers of that throughout the draft process, but he's hurt and now he's not going to be able to work at the pro day. He didn't work at the combine. And so it's tough. And I know that there's a lot of difficulty of projecting where he might be best at the NFL level. Sitting at 20, I would still pick it. And that's still, I mean, we've seen Vance Joseph over the years deal with players like that, these kind of hybrid linebacker edges multiple times throughout his career. And it's always been a case of it's never worked out for him. And then they end up with somebody else and it's worked out a little bit more. So it would be very interesting to go that way. I wouldn't hate it, but I don't think I would love it either.
And it's not just Vance Joseph either for those hybrid linebacker body types. But I mean, Jim Leonard at Wisconsin, being a Big Ten West RIP fan, what the Badgers were able to do with the pass rush versatility from edge and off ball was infuriating. That they were unbelievably difficult to play because of how versatile they were with their linebackers. I mean, you just go through the list of the guys that were there under Jim Leonard. It's unbelievable. I mean, really, you got Herbig, TJ Watt, Schobert, Bond, of course, as well. I mean, there's 3 or 4 Andrew Van Ginkel, like these, like really like, oh, where do they fit? Well, super versatile, pass rush, spot drop, run fits, versatile guys. So again, it's maybe a little bit harder for the Broncos, but all the same, I think it's at least something at this point with where the Broncos have done so well filling their roster that it's in the conversation. Him and Jalen Walker and Jihad Campbell, given the versatility there. Now it's like one of those things, give me the meme, fell for it again, just like drafting a first-round tight end like the last 10 years. Not a very good track record there, but something that worth keeping an eye on. We got Todd coming in, says, guys, would you draft Henderson or Devin Neal? If they're the same slot, Henderson's far and away the better player. Now, granted, he has the ligament issue in his foot that caused issues over multiple seasons that, like, if the Broncos think, like, this is going to be a problem and he's going to deal with it his whole career, maybe you do go Devin Neal there. I don't have the Broncos records there. I don't know how they feel about his medical issues. But straight up, it's obviously Henderson. Now, if the question is Henderson at 20 versus Devin Neal in the 4th round, I'm probably taking Devin Neal in the 4th round. But straight up, it's easily Henderson for me.
Now the question is, would you take both of them? It's not one or the other. It's both.
Oh,
would you draft both of them?
Oh, man, I might like somebody with a little bit more oomph than Devin Neal if I took Henderson there. I'm thinking about my guys like Martinez. I think that, I mean, if you're talking like 6, where does Ollie Gordon fall to? I know he had a terrible year in 2024, but 2023, I mean, people thought he maybe was one of the top 3 backs in the class. So day 3, that's worth considering. I also think there's 2 SEC running backs that big builds being slept on a little bit just because the class is so deep. In Rocket Sanders out of South Carolina, really strong runner for the Gamecocks, the Arkansas Razorbacks before that. And Jarquez Hunter. I mean, he's not like the most athletically gifted guy, but damn, he squeezes every ounce of ability out of him. Good vision, good patience, just a battering ram kind of guy. So could I get those guys even a little? Martinez, 4th round, Sanders / Gordon / whoever the other running back I'm at, Hunter, they're the 6th round of, yes, but I 2 running backs. Sure, sign me up. I like Neal. I worry that doesn't have enough juice overall, like bending the corner and like getting away from guys able to do it in the Big 12. I don't know if he can do that as much in the NFL, but that's why we're talking about him as a 4th rounder. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, Henderson in the 2nd, Neal in the 3rd, I wouldn't be super, a big fan of. If you go Henderson in the 3rd, and Henderson in the 2nd, and Neal in the 4th, I could live with it. Ideally, and based on what's going around, there might be a chance that Neal falls a little bit. There's a lot of concerns with him coming out throughout the draft process. So I think ideally, if we're talking Henderson in this at 51, obviously, I don't think you're going to be able to get him at 85, and I think 20 is way too high for him. So Henderson at 20, and then if you trade down from 122 or trade up with 2 of those 6th-round picks and get Neal somewhere in the 5th round, I think that's probably where I'd be like, okay, that's fine. I just think that in the 4th round, there's probably going to be a better option available than him. And then even if you get talking 5th and 6th round, if he falls that far to the 6th, there's other guys that might be just like, I might go that way over Neal just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mike Gibbons, 1999. Thank you so much, Mike. You always coming in here supporting the show. I didn't see any other comments here from you, but heck of a support. I also love this sentence. Not or, but, and Nick. So that's, you're right. But I just loved how that read for me. So we're sitting here. This is a one, whereas I think it's pretty obvious. Walter Nolan falling to 51. I know there's questions. This one, if he falls this far, I'm like wondering if there's something else going on behind the scenes for the Broncos. Quinshon Judkins here. I'm fine with it. 51. I know some people like him more than Omarion Hampton, that I respect. We have Elijah Roy falling here. I really like Jared Ivey. I think this is probably around early, but I like Ivey a lot. Dylan Sampson probably around early, still all the same. Alfred Collins definitely in play here. We got Mason Taylor. We already went with a tight end, but they're interesting. I think Broncos visited him. I'm not sure if he's coming in for a in-person one, but Marcus Bow is, I think he's got a chance to be the best center in the class. But as the board falls here for the Broncos, I think it's got to be Walter Nolan.
Yeah, I mean, he's by far the best player, who might actually fall because of some, issues and character concerns coming out of Ole Miss. So he might actually fall. And then I just real quick for Judkins he is another guy that I'm not a big fan of. I like Hampton quite a bit more than Judkins. And I'm lower on Hampton than most. Judkins I don't think he offers anything outside of blocking on third down. I don't see it as a receiver. And I don't see much ability there working outside of the tackles at the NFL level. I think he's going to be pretty strictly a 2-down between the tackles runner and a pass protector. And I'm not sure I find the value there in the second round for that.
For Judkins?
Yes.
He's so weird because I felt like his vision and pacing and just creativity as a runner and in the open field was so much better at Ole Miss. Now, I don't know if that's a design of the scheme. I also think that Ohio State's offensive line for most of the regular season was, for run blocking especially, not good. I mean, they just had so many injuries. You're moving your best guard out to tackle. You lose Simmons after 5 games. You lose McLaughlin, and it took until the playoffs, I felt, for that unit to co-congeal. And then when that happened, all of a sudden Judkins and Henderson, all of a sudden, like, oh, this is what we thought they were going to be. So I don't know how much of a pass we're willing to give them. And also, again, he just looked like a different back at Ole Miss to me. So I wonder if it's a case of like trying to do too much because of the limited reps that he had versus at Ole Miss, where he was by far the bell cow guy. But with his testing and his tape at Ole Miss, I'm okay with him at 51 because I think the profile lends itself to an explosive downhill runner. I wish he was a little bit slow to the line and fast through the hole from time to time. But I felt like I saw that more at Ole Miss. Now, granted, maybe some of that's the Looney Tunes offense that Lane Kiffin is running out there compared to what Chip Kelly was doing at Ohio State. But I'm okay with him at 51. I think that he's athletic enough, the build enough is good enough, and the Ole Miss tape. People I really respect had him as running back 1 coming into the year off the Ole Miss tape. So I think 51 is fine for me personally, but there are questions. I completely understand why you'd have questions for him. So we're sitting here, pick 85 for the Broncos. We've gone interior defensive line. We've gone tight end. Running back is kind of fizzled here. Damian Martinez came off the board early. DJ Giddens already, unfortunately, as well. So we're kind of in trouble at running back, but you know what? Draft good players. I think the one that stands out for me here is Marcus Bow, but Trey Harris is interesting here for wide receiver. Jalen Royals is interesting here at wide receiver. We still got Neal available. I don't know if I love Neal at this spot all the same. Dorian Strong's an interesting player. Of course, Jacob Parrish, I love him. And then you got Femi Oladejo, who I think Mel Kiper 2 mocks ago had him going in the first round. So he's kind of Scott thought he was one of the best players at the entire Senior Bowl. So where are you thinking here for the Broncos? Jason wants us to go running back. Sorry, Jason, I don't think that there's a obvious running back that is so much better than everybody else that you don't kick the can until the 4th round for me personally.
Yeah, just a couple comments there in the chat that I want to grab real quick because we took Colston Loveland in the first round, since I've seen a lot of people asking about that. The tight end Michigan. And then Jason Bonney coming in saying Walter Nolan being there in the second round isn't realistic. I'm not sure if he'll fall to 51, but I'm really starting. Obviously, month till the draft, a lot can change. There's, misinformation's going around. But for months, there have been a lot of questions about Walter Nolan's character and his attitude that people are talking about that's going to fall. And normally you kind of get, if that's kind of chatter to quiet down after the combine, then it might suggest that they got their answers. It's only picked up more since the combine, which is suggesting that NFL teams did not get the answers they were looking for or answers at all to the questions they had about his character, which could lead to his fall, in the draft. Yeah. So I don't want to say it's unrealistic, but I also don't want to say that it's super realistic either. It's probably somewhere there in between. Now, as for this pick, the name that really stands out to me is Trey Harris. I like him a lot. I like him for what he can do for the Broncos offense. He's tall. He's a little bit lanky. I think he only weighed about 200 to 210 pounds at the combine. So a little bit on the lanky side.
Older. Also.
He is a little bit older as well. But, that Ole Miss offense where, a lot of his catches were on, those quick hitters, those screens behind the line scrimmage stuff and letting him something go and happen, hitches as well. You got to work to expand that route tree. I think he offers enough, to work slants and digs and, posts a little bit that he can really he can slide in and contribute as a rookie for the Broncos offense that I think really does need another pass catcher. Betting on, growth from Devon Vele, growth on Marvin Mims, growth from Troy Franklin, is a bit weird to me. You also need to try to get him to do better at protecting the catch point. I think that's another issue that he kind of has. There's been some pass breakups. There's been some concentration drops. But at this point, with seeing what's left on the board, I think Trey Harris is where I would go.
Okay, I probably lean Bow. Excuse me. Got to get the name right there, just because I think he's got a chance to be one of the best interior players in this class. And with the long-term questions, I think building the offensive line and keeping Bo Nix upright and just dictating up front is as important as anything the Broncos can do outside of the defensive line. But we can go Trey Harris here. I just wanted to give a shout out to Bow because I think he is a heck of a player, and the Broncos have shown interest in him at this point as well. But Harris makes sense for the Broncos looking for long-term X. Do you wonder if he's a little redundant with Vele to the extent of the big guy, maybe not overly explosive, not like truly like a dynamic ball winner, probably more wide receiver 3 profile, where Royals, I think you have a little bit more athleticism, ball tracking down the field ability.
I'm not overly concerned with that. I think Trey Harris comes in and he's your second wide receiver. He doesn't have that explosive athleticism really that you want to see. But I think that how do I put this, with his size and his length and what routes he has ran, I think there's more there for him. And then I think that even though he's a little bit older, 23 years old as a rookie, I think that there's still a decent size or decent space until he gets to a ceiling. He's a guy that, I don't think he's going to be, he's obviously how they develop matters and everything like that, but he could be a wide receiver 1, I think, for certain schemes, not every scheme. And I think that when you look at what Sean Payton has prototypically loved to have with his offense, I think that he loves those types of receivers. He loves the explosive ones, but he kind of has that already, those explosive guys. And that's where Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin come in. So if you're going somebody like that, then obviously you're going to be looking at some redundancy there. The issue with, and talking of redundancy, the issue is that the Broncos, they kind of have a receiver that fits almost every single archetype that you're looking for. So even Jalen Royals is he a perfect copy of what they already have? No, but there's a lot of similarities to elements that you have already. Same thing's going to happen with Trey Harris, and same thing's going to happen with almost every single guy that you're going to be talking about round 3, round 4, in the wide receiver room.
Do you think they have an F? I know the F's typically more of a tight end position, but the lines have blurred a lot there, and you actually have wide receivers playing that F role way more often. Do you think they have somebody who's a good enough blocker from the slot to function in the screen game, as well as the contested catch over the midfield? Because, I mean, from Vele, he's just not very physical as a blocker right now, and I think the catch point stuff over the middle of the field still leaves a lot to be desired for me. I know that he's been getting gassed up, glazed, as the kids say, but I don't know if I love him actually in that F role.
Yeah, I said it almost every single archetype. Yeah. That's the one archetype that I don't think they have. Okay. That, it's basically what they were asking little Jordan Humphrey to do. And unless I missed it, I didn't see a wide receiver there unless we wanted to massively reach for like a Pat Bryant.
Yeah.
I didn't see a wide receiver there that would have kind of filled that.
Yeah, for sure. I get it. Just wanted to at least touch on that a little bit. So I'm going to twist your arm here, Eric. We have to go running back with the 4th pick. I know that we're concerned about the fumbling with Tootin. I think he's so explosive here that I'm willing to risk it. I think that Smith is not as good of a runner, which scares me a tad with him. We do have Jarquez Hunter still available. Trevor Etienne is a really good vision running back. Kyle Monunga, I think he's better in zone. He's going to end up like in San Francisco or Miami and be a good player. Marcus Yarn's interesting here as well. Ollie Gordon's still available. Jackson, I mean, we've got a lot of good backs, but I think we have to take one here. We cannot go through the first 4 rounds with no backs.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned the fumbles for Tootin, but didn't mention it for Brashad Smith. Brashad Smith actually fumbled more frequently than Tootin did.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, I had to go through and I had to pull it up. Brashard Smith fumbled once every 51.6 touches, once every 68.7 for Tootin.
Let's go Tootin. I think he's just so
So
explosive forth. I know there's concerns there, but as far as the just home run hitting, I think hitting home runs as a running back is so important for an offense because it gives you a different pitch that you have and protecting the football, turnovers, and explosive plays. Brian Billick was way ahead of the game with his toxicity reports there, or his metrics. So I'm going to go with Tootin here. I know that maybe back and forth on him, but he's so explosive. I feel like we have to do it. And find it back here. So we'll see here. Now we're up on the clock with the Broncos quarterbacks galore here. We got Brady, man, a lot of freaking quarterbacks. My goodness, anything but a quarterback. Running back still interesting here. We got Zeke. Let's just go Zeke Biggers. We're taking our time here. We need a big body there. Still available. Cody Lindenberg. Also, I know that you're a big fan of him. Tim Smith is available. We already took a big wide receiver, but Thornton tested unbelievable. We got our big guy there. Ollie Gordon, I mean, 6th round, sign me up. I got no issue with that. Frazier, Slater is interesting. I love CJ Dippre. Man, let me pitch it out for you. I think that just because he might be gone by then, let's take Cody Lindenberg first, and then let's go to Dippre after that, who's one of my guys in this class.
I was gonna suggest how much you want to try to game the board and go Cody Lindenberg and then go Ollie Gordon.
We can go Ollie Gordon too. Let's go. Okay, let's see how the board goes. We'll go Lindenberg first here, and then if he's still available, we can go Ollie Gordon. It looks like he is still available. So yeah, 6th round. I mean, gosh, he had a bad season. This past year looked really weird, but 2023 was awesome. So I'm happy with that all the same. So the reason I heard Trevor Sikkema talk about it, they grade the picks also based on your team needs. And I think they took tight end off the needs for the Broncos. So you're going to get a worse grade for Loveland there all the same, but you still need guys. So here's the Broncos here. I don't mind this at all. If they, especially with Walter Nolan and Colston Loveland, I don't have any problem with it. I wish that we could have gotten Dylan Sampson there at 85 maybe. But instead, you get in the aggregate, I think you still fix the running back room a lot here with your 2 backs, and you add players at value position. So if the Broncos walked away with this, I'd be very happy.
Yeah, I mean, there's risk in it. I mean, when you have Colston Loveland coming back from a torn labrum, that provides risk. Walter Nolan with the character stuff, that provides risk. Tootin with the fumbles, and the as explosive as he is, how much can he do between the tackles? That's also a concern there. Getting a nose tackle only in Zeke Biggers when you already have DJ Jones and Malcolm Roach as your nose tackles. Those Zeke Biggers is different than the two of them. I mean, Biggers is a 2-gapping nose tackle compared to more of a gap and a half that we're seeing with Jones and Roach. Ollie Gordon, with how bad of a season he had and his very upright running style, that can lead to concern. So it's a very concerning draft, but it's one that has high boom potential as well, just because of the risk that you have when you take inherent risks. You typically can see with prospects and everything, you can see more of higher boom potential.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to do a trade down one now. And we'll probably do a trade up one, but only do maybe the first 4 rounds just because of time. And because of the trade up, we'll have to have the board a little slower. So it'll take, because we have to be able to pause it, right? The turbo, we won't be able to trade up. So we'll go with this will be the trade down one first. So let's get on the clock here. I'll probably be somebody that's way too good to pass. Campbell would be interesting. I love Egbuka. Walter Nolan, still Amari and Hampton's there. Shamar Stewart. Whenever I'm going to bang that drum eventually, it's true. How far do you want to trade down? We're going to force a trade here. Forget what they're offering. Do you think 25 through 35? Who do you want to trade with?
With who was left on the board? So there was Hampton, there was Loveland, there was Campbell, there was Walker. The
Rams coming up for Loveland.
Huh?
Rams coming up for Loveland.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking. It was maybe the Rams with Loveland left. The Bears, that's who they suggest. I think that's a little bit too far for me going to 39. Because I was looking at it, 4 big players that really caught my attention with that quick run through. They're not going to be the next 4 picks. The Rams are sitting at 26. That I think is a great area of where I'm fine with. Little extra risk because all 4 can go as the next 4 picks, but I doubt it.
So I'm going to do 26,101 for 20. That seems fair in this class. One of your comp picks, round 3. I don't know how the points come out on that, but I think that's probably about it. So we'll go with that. The Rams can come up. We'll just say they take Loveland in this. Maybe if Loveland falls to us, we're bypassing it. Yeah, he's still there. Let's say he didn't get taken there. So we're on the board here for the Broncos at pick 26. I'm going to make a play for Emeka Egbuka. We kind of talked about on the last one. You need an F wide receiver. I think he's going to run 4-3 somewhere. And I think that he's just being slept on. Good route runner, really good blocker, versatile, a little bit better at the catch point than you think. A thick player for his position as well. And there was issues with the Ohio State offense early on with Will Howard coming in. Last season, Kyle McCord up and down and was awesome with CJ Stroud the year before. And he's always been second fiddle, but I don't think that makes him bad by any means. It's just they have so many mouths they have to feed out there at Ohio State, playing behind Donovan Smith and, of course, Marvin Harrison Jr. So I think Emeka Egbuka, really high floor. 11 personnel, 12 personnel, he's going to be a viable player.
And I was having a conversation with a guy the other day, and it wasn't a player comparison. I just want to make that clear here. But they're talking about how they're being valued and how they're being looked at. And he was talking about what it reminds me of with Egbuka is Justin Jefferson. Talent around him, the offensive talent in general, having to adjust to quarterback change because, they had to adjust a little there at one point for Joe Burrow coming in. And, underrated route runner, underrated athleticism, underrated as a blocker. People are pegging him only as a slot only, and he can just basically line up anywhere because of the route running ability. And the more I was talking to this guy and the more he was explaining and going through it, I'm like, I get where you're coming from. We are kind of seeing that the same kind of stuff about Justin Jefferson being said about Egbuka. Egbuka is the way I would go here. For the reason you said, he's one of the better blockers. I think he's really easy to, put into a role on this offense right away as a rookie. And I think that I wouldn't be surprised if Egbuka goes to the Houston Texans, pairing him back up with CJ Stroud as well. That's been something that's been getting thrown around, even though they need an offensive lineman, depending on how that falls. But yeah, Egbuka there was, I think, the smart choice.
Yep. And I got a comment here from Quentin Caldwell. First round wide receiver has to be a replacement for Sutton. I don't think necessarily. You're playing 3 to 4 guys rotationally. You don't have an F right now. And maybe Vele is your X. I mean, how often has Sean Payton actually utilized a traditional big body X on the perimeter? So he's kind of funneled it more attack the middle of the field and looking for speed on the perimeter, field stretching, maybe even Martez Valdez-Scantling, body type, just to decompress things. So I don't know. We'll see what Sean Payton wants to do there, but I don't think it necessarily has to be a true X receiver for the Broncos there. So we're on the clock. Besh fell. Of course he did. That's funny as heck, but here we are. Swinson's getting some play. I think he's somebody I've slept on a little bit too long, but for me, the board stands out here. I'd be fine with either Judkins or Schwessinger for where the Broncos are at in this one, or Travion Henderson, or Alfred Collins, or Mason Taylor. What do you think? We gave the people, let's just go back-to-back Ohio State. Let's go Henderson and Egbuka, round it out. We waited too long for running back last time. Let's kind of switch it up.
I'm with you. Only thing I was gonna say outside of Henderson was Alfred Collins, and not as a fight for him, but just it's kind of funny because a couple weeks ago when we did this, I was banging the table for Alfred Collins there at 51, and you're like, no, and now here you are bringing him up.
Yeah,
I'm glad I won that one.
Yeah, no, you definitely did. I wish he was a little bit more explosive upfield, but I think the ability to 4-eye and even transition down to one technique with the length that he has, the ability to control at the point of attack, he's going to be more of an eater than a penetrator, but I like to have different body types there all the same. Like if I had my choice between Tyleik Williams at a 3 down to 1 tech, not exactly a 1-for-1, but like a penetration power forward guy versus Collins, who I think is a little bit more control space. I'd rather have Tyleik, but Collins, just a very solid high floor player, one of the best run defenders in the class. So we're sitting here on the board with the Broncos here. We took our running back. We're sitting here now. We've taken wide receiver. I don't want to say outright I refuse to go purely a fantasy football oriented first day and day 2. So we're not gonna take Terrence Ferguson. Sorry, Jeremy. I cannot go wide receiver, running back, tight end the first 3 days. I will lose my mind. You need to have some meat and potatoes here. So the guy I'm gonna bang for is probably Omar Norman-Lott, penetrator. But I also think that there's a play for Joshua Farmer as well. But I think you need to cast some die on the defensive line.
I think it's very hard to pass up on Ferguson here, even though, as you said, going, wide receiver, running back, tight end, it's not great. But with what the Broncos did, it kind of plays towards that. I mean, yeah, they still need depth and they still need a lot of answers, future questions on it. But they really seem to be going into the draft with the focus of adding youth on the offense to continue, to sustain the ability around Bo Nix, and then Bo Nix having that familiarity with Ferguson as well. I think Ferguson's hard to pass up here.
We took him. Fine. Screw you guys. Guess what? The defensive linemen are gone. Now, there goes Farmer. There goes Omar Norman-Lott. Gosh darn you guys. So we're sitting here on the board. Might as well just take another running back, right? That's all that matters is fantasy football position.
Tez Johnson. There we go. We'll take Tez Johnson.
Gosh, stupid. Hate it. If you need to breathe on the defensive line and offensive line, I'm going to control this one here. I'm going to take one of my favorite guys in the class, Jacob Parrish. Inside, outside versatility, despite being 5'10", plays press like a freaking banshee on the perimeter, a good tackler. I think if you're going to play man scheme out there, he's somebody who I love. So I'm going to go with Parrish in that one. And that was the pick we got from the Rams. So I was also considering Femi Oladejo, UCLA pass rusher, but Parrish there is too good. We got Jason says, I've noticed Jack Sawyer falling down boards. Reason why he's a gamer with a high floor despite not having very high ceiling. He's got T-Rex arms. He's not the most versatile. I think like 31-inch arms. And you see that on tape. He has issues finishing tackles and guys get into his chest. He is a little bit of a stick of dynamite too. Like he can get in guys and explode into their chest a bit. Pause. That's what she said. But he is a fun. Yeah, guys, these fantasy football mock drafters. But sorry, yeah, he's fallen down. Didn't test exceptionally well. The lack of length is very obvious on tape.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, the lack of length, it shows up on tape, not only with tackles, but with getting off blocks. He really struggles once, longer offensive linemen get inside his chest. He can't get out of it, and his hand fighting isn't good enough to where it makes up for it. As for the last pick, I was going to say Jacob Parrish or Femi Oladejo. Those were the two that I was at as well. Looking through, seeing who's on here, Baron Sorrell is an interesting name. JJ Pegues, you kind of were circling that one as well. Though with JJ Pegues and Alfred Collins, they're both more nose tackle types. Although JJ Pegues offers up, wildcat quarterback ability. The fact that he's caught like 7 touchdowns of his 8 touchdowns from Bo Nix is also something, or 8 catches from Bo Nix is also something that is funny to me. But the one that really stands out is Baron Sorrell. It just seems like they want us to take an edge here. That's what seems to be where the most value is along the edge, and I'm not really seeing it elsewhere.
I'm going to take an edge, but I'm going to take somebody different. You twisted my arm on Terrence Ferguson. I'm going to take a guy here just for the another one of my favorite players, day 3 in this draft class. I have like a running mock for my final one, and I had him listed in the 6th round, but it seems like his stock is flying up now, so he won't be there. And that is Q Robinson. Nick Saban called him the best special teams player he's ever had. And just playing behind a lot of talent there. I mean, he's 6'5", 250. Some of the one-arm stuff that he has on tape, like there is tools to work with here. And again, day 3, I think the pass rush ability is there. And just the floor, because do we want to take a special teamers 4th round? No, probably more 5th round, but I think he's got pass rush ability too. So I'm going to stand on the table here for Q Robinson because I think he's got actually the tools to be somebody where Sorrell, I think, is a very high floor, but he's a little bit more of a tryhard. I don't see the traits that I see with Robinson.
That's fine. Q Robinson, he's another good player. And we've seen the Broncos' ability to develop edges. I mean, Nick Benito, he's developed quite a bit over the last couple of years. Jonathan Cooper, he's developed. Even Jonah Ellis, we saw, even though the statistics weren't, didn't match the end of the season as it did the beginning of the season, we saw him show growth. We saw the other edge rusher whose name is escaping me at the moment, the kid that was in the UFL last year. He showed growth as the season went on. So we've shown that they can develop it, and Q Robinson needs development. So,
yep. And I have a rule for us in this one. I want to take none of the players we took in the 6th round last time, because otherwise we just like picking our guys that we like that are in this range. So different players here for the Broncos. I think I don't think we've gone linebacker yet. I think Kobe King is a viable option here for the Broncos as well. We took an edge, but it doesn't have to be that. I think that Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, I mean, he tested unbelievable. And this is the area where you roll a dice on somebody that different. If you're looking for a 4-eye, I mean, he tested like a freaking off-ball linebacker, and he's like 280, 290. So how do you feel about, let's go Tyrion here, just because, I mean, boomer bust, but 5-star guy, just traits on traits.
And the big conversation with him is having him bulk up another 10 to 15 pounds and being that 4 or 5 technique that we see so prevalent in the NFL today, instead of, this hybrid edge rusher that making him find a home as that, 3-4 defensive end, basically.
I'm very bummed because I wanted to go CJ Dippre with the next one, and he goes off 2 picks later. We can go any direction here. It's late. Kobe King, interesting for me. Jalen Lane, I feel like this is good value this late. Do we need another wide receiver? But he's good. Keandre Lambert-Smith, also this late, is interesting. Could go Jake Majors this far down. Miles Frazier makes sense to me. Also, Luke Lachey, 6th round. I mean, he's injury issues, but that's fine. This far down the board for me. Holland Pierce, also interesting. Anybody stand out here for you?
Kobe King is the one that stands out the most.
Probably the best.
Jonah Monaheim, he's fine, but I think that at that point, Kobe King's the way to go.
And let's just see what our running back board is here, because I very much believe guy that we talked about earlier, Jackson. He doesn't typically go this high, but I think not Jackson, excuse me, Raheem Sanders doesn't typically go that high, but I like him. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Just the big body type. We already took Henderson. Somebody to push Estime here with this pick is how it falls out.
And at the pro day, the Broncos met with him, and they were the ones who ran the South Carolina running back drills. So they got hands on with him. Sanders in the 6th, I'm fine with it. I wouldn't mind seeing, trade down and get him, but I'm fine with it at the 6th.
They wanted us to go Omar Norman Lott there with that pick, but there we go with the board. They think it's okay. All the same. So there's that one. We're going to run one more here very quickly because we got to fly, but appreciate everyone hanging out with us so far today with all of it. And hope you enjoyed your fantasy football centric mock draft there. You heathens. Gosh, you would not survive in the doldrums of the Iowa Hawkeyes watching them, because my God, pain for your skill position guys, but that's okay. So now we're doing a trade up one here. I have it on slow. We're going to try to pause it to get Genty, I think is the move. I think this is a Genty centric trade up. So here we go. Cam Ward. Oh, this is way too slow. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. Pausing it. Oh, there goes Genty to the freaking Jets. What are we doing? Okay. Well, now we're looking for Tet McMillan. Let's pause it. Tet's still available. Think we're trading up for Tet? Is that okay? Pick 10?
Up to pick 10 for Tet? I don't think. I think he'll still be in actuality, I think he'll still be in the board in this mock draft. Never know. So I mean, the first mock we did, he was going 7th, 8th, something like that. So it's tough. I'm not sure would be for trading up to 10 either way. Even if Genty was there, I'm not sure I'm wanting to move up to 10.
I'm with you. We have it now, the Cowboys at 12. Let's just copy Chad's mock for the trade. 20 and 51 for 12.
All right.
I don't think Denver should do this or will do this. I think you're more likely to trade up day 2. We don't have time for that today. We're hanging out with the draft board here. So, I thought I did the trade. Okay, well, I guess I didn't. Colts. We'll do the Colts. We'll give them 51. They'll give us back 117. Sure, that gives us another pick there in that range. We're forcing this trade. Forced trade. Boom, we did it. Okay, we're on the board. Tet McMillan. There you go. Broncos get an X. Somebody inside, outside. We're not trading up for a tight end because I'm not a heathen. We already did your guys's. We'll pause and let this fly now. There we go. Turbo. Boom. Thank God. Okay,
You also
on the
don't have
board.
the mock showing, by the way.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I hear my baby screaming, so we got to fly here on this one. There we go. So we took Tet. Can you see it now?
Just got to pull it up on the screen, and it's at it.
Oh, there we go. We took Tet. Now we're on the clock at pick 85. Dylan Sampson. Get a running back here. He's a dream at 85. So we have 2 4th-round picks, I believe. We're on the board here with the Broncos. Gunnar Helm, 4th round,
or Peebles.
Peebles.
I think. I mean, we have 122. I think Gunnar Helm is the right choice here. But if Peebles is still available at the next pick, it'd be hard to pass up on Peebles for me.
Okay, let's go with Gunnar Helm. Another fantasy football one. There's Peebles. Got Q Robinson still. Tootin, Kaiser, linebacker kind of falls off a freaking cliff. Savion Jones is interesting also, but we'll go Peebles. Weird body type, but penetration guy. There we go. So we traded up. We got ourselves a wide receiver 1 to go along with it. We got an A+ on that one. A+ there. This is the one they like the most. They gave us an A+ on it, despite a trade up. So there you go, folks. Let us know. Another freaking fantasy football one. Now he's fine going all offense. Just because I'm running out of time and I hear the baby screaming and I got to get going. So a lot of fun. Oh, Drew says Egbuka better than Tet. Interesting. I mean, who knows? I think Egbuka's sliding. I like Egbuka. I don't know what's going on. But I like Tet as well. So yeah, fun. Trade up, trade down. Right now, I think the Broncos trade up is more likely somewhere day 2. Right. I think that we'll maybe mess with that at some point. But somebody at 20 and then packaging picks to go get your running back, tight end, wide receiver specific of choice after BPA at 20. I think that's most likely. We've seen the Broncos trade up 3 times in 2 off seasons, day 2 or the second pick of day 3. So essentially day 2. That seems more probable for me than a Broncos trading up in the first round.
Yeah, trading up to the back end of the second round, trading up a little bit earlier and trading up somewhere in the 3rd round, trading up in the 4th round. But when you look at what Denver's done under George Payton and even Sean Payton, trade up back end of the 2nd round. Then if you can, also trading down in the 3rd round, which they've done a couple times. That's another option. That seems to be the sweet spot for George Payton to be willing to move around a little bit more. And, we've seen Sean Payton. He loves to move up in the 1st round to go get his guy. Maybe George Payton has kind of reined him in a little bit and be like, we can do that day 2, day 3. Day 1, we're going to stick and see how the board falls to us and to entertain trading down.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll run more of this. A lot of fun to see the different scenarios. So we'll have to do one at some point where we trade up day 2 because I think that's more likely. Got our guy Patrick coming in here. Good to see you. I see Michael's in here. Michael, I must have missed your super chat earlier, but thank you so much. Great to see you. Said great pick, Nick. Thank you, Michael. Did you just copy paste that one all the time? Any point. Good point, Nick. Great pick, Nick. Appreciate you coming in. Appreciate everyone coming to the stars today as well. Todd, Mike Gibbons, Jason Bonney over on the YouTube side of things. If we missed anybody on the Facebook side, I'm trying to find it on my phone. We got Michael saying, great show today. Nick and Eric on Broncos for breakfast. God bless you guys. Thank you so much. See our guy, Colorado. Morning all. Hope you had a great day. Yeah, fun. You guys bullied me. Online bullying works to go with skill positions on offense. Next time, we're just going to go all front 7 players for ones, just to see how you guys feel. Todd Ostendorf says we need a running back 1st, 2nd round. Thoughts? I don't think they have to because the class is incredibly deep. The mock that we did where we went Tootin round 4 and Ollie Gordon round 6, I'd be fine with that going into next. Now, is it like high probability? I mean, you have 4 options there. I think the floor is pretty high when you have 4 options. So I don't mind it. But I have to need. I think it's more want. It's bordering on need, but I think it's more want than anything with those running backs.
Yeah, I mean, they're fine with the running back room. It's like wide receiver room. Internally, they're fine with it. I think they would like to add somebody to it. I think they're looking at adding somebody to it at some point with running back as well. I mean, it's as you said, this is such a deep class. I don't think they have to in the 1st or 2nd round. I think you can get high quality guys in the 3rd and 4th round and quality starters or quality contributors after that. So I don't think they have to. They've kind of grown on Audric Estime with how he closed the season, with how Jaleel McLaughlin kind of closed out the season. That's when he really started to shine. And they still like Tyler Bidet as well. The injury threw things off there, but they liked what he did in that short time. So I think it's enough to where it's you don't have to take a running back at those. I think they'd kind of like to, but they don't have to.
Yeah, absolutely. And Zach says we can't put more around Drew Lock than Bo. You wouldn't, because the offensive line. The offensive line is top 5 in the NFL, and Drew Lock probably didn't matter, but he had a offensive line. I mean, Jawan James was out there, right? Like backup swing right tackles. So not the case by any means. And I trust Sean Payton enough to scheme guys open. They're going to add somebody. Don't worry about that. But it doesn't have to be all 3 of your top 100 picks. Gosh, make me lose my mind. But appreciate everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Make sure you're following Eric on Twitter. Eric's at Erick Trickel. I'm at Kendell MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle, Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. And subscribe, like, and share, of course, as well. Appreciate all you guys. Have a great one. Go Broncos.